Hey everyone, I am so sorry I'm late. I had a session go over today. I just want to joke. Am I live yet? I don't know. I don't know if this works, but I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Today, I want to talk to you all about how do you know a negative belief is limiting your potential. I think, the people who do what I do, we talk about mindset, we talk about subconscious mind, we talk about belief systems. We fail to realize that not everybody understands exactly how a negative belief is created, what a negative belief is, and how it shows up in your life. Now, if you're someone whose ultimate goal is money or wealth or material gains, this live is likely not going to be for you. Okay, I just want to be clear about that um, because that is really not where we're going with this information. Now, let me preface actually my last statement by saying if you are someone who is in survival mode, so maybe material gains are not what your life, like your ultimate goal in life is. Maybe wealth is not the thing that's at the forefront of your mind, but money is very important to you right now. And the reason why money is important to so many people is because so many people don't have it. And so it's a lot easier for people who have money, who have the resources, that have everything they need. They have their home paid for, they have their bills paid for, their kids college tuition is paid, their cars are paid off. It's very easy for people like that to not really stress about money and to worry about other things in life, like things like their family, what's the word I'm trying to find, just the health and longevity of their family, let's put it that way, or vacations kind of stuff, or maybe self-help kind of things. The things that I see with people who are doing really well financially, they're not necessarily concerned with survival. If you are someone who is concerned with survival, then this statement that I just made does not apply to you. You would actually be considered in the people who I am talking to. And that is if you're someone who has a deep desire to have an impact, create fulfillment in your life, in the life of others, and can't seem to shut that valve off no matter what you do, but nothing you do is working or shifting past a specific ceiling for you in any area of your life. This is really going to apply to you, what I'm talking about today, and that is, how do you know a negative belief is limiting your potential when it comes to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish? Now, most of the people that I work with are entrepreneurs, people who are not necessarily who don't necessarily have their own business yet, but are entrepreneurs nonetheless. We call them entrepreneurs, right? Who are working in a job or even a career that they've studied hard for, that they've put money into to get to where they are. Maybe they've put a lot of time and they're really good at what they do. Maybe they're not, doesn't really matter. But they are not fulfilled. They don't want to be there. They would rather, like I said, have an impact and create fulfillment in their own life and the lives of others. And there's just nothing that they can do to shake this desire within themselves to push themselves forward, to want to be someone who has this impact. But for some reason, they can't seem to get out of what they're currently doing or lack thereof. And they don't understand why. They don't know why things aren't moving in the direction of their desire. And I'm doing this live to tell you that the reason is because of a negative belief system that is blocking you. People have a problem with that answer because they don't understand what that means. They're like, why are you speaking Chinese? I don't know what my negative beliefs are. I remember way back in the day, I felt so trapped in my life. I was living in my grandmother's house. I was living in like a, 12 by 12 room. That was where my stuff was located. And I just felt like, gosh, I can't believe that I'm in this position. And I felt like, why, no matter what I try, I had tried so many things. I was a makeup artist and I went to nursing school and I tried so many different things that I was passionate about, but I could never create an impact. I could never make a difference in my own life and the lives of the people that I affected. And I didn't understand why just simply wanting something wasn't enough. And when I started learning about belief systems and the subconscious mind and how it affects my life and how it affects the reality that I live in, people were talking about you need to change your belief systems. And I was like, okay, how? Tell me how. I will change my belief systems. Tell me how. First of all, where do they come from? How is it here? Where do I find them? How do I know what my belief systems even are to change them? And then once I figure out what they are, how do I change them? And I could never get that answer. And I just thank every God in heaven that I could not find that answer from anyone else, because what it drove me to do was go find it myself. And if I hadn't done that, soul therapy would not have been born, and I would not be here today teaching y'all what is really difficult to find online. Now, maybe these days, we're talking about, 10, 15 years ago, but maybe these days it's easier to find this, but I'm going to tell you about it today. So how do you know a negative belief is limiting your potential right now in your life with the things that you're trying to do? The first thing that you're going to notice that a belief system is coming up that is blocking you is that when you have something that you're very passionate about and you really want, and you got a little momentum behind you and you go kind of towards it and it feels good, all of a sudden some bullshit happens that gets in the way of you achieving the goal. That bullshit that happens is an opportunity for you, if you so choose to accept it, is an opportunity for you to look at that and say, why do I feel this way? Why is this triggering me? Why, whatever, fill in the blank. That is showing you a negative belief system that is coming up for you to address and work through. Okay. So that is a really good way for you to find out what negative beliefs are getting in your way. I just mentioned another one, and that is triggers. One of the best ways, and I have some videos, a 3-part series on YouTube. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, the link is on my page. I have a 3-part series on there that talks about triggers and how triggers can show you what belief systems are coming up for healing and what exercises you can actually use in your journal to work through that belief system, bust through it, snatch it, kill it, knock it down so that it no longer affects you in your life and is no longer getting in the way. It's not, though, as simple as, oh, I found this one belief system, I'm going to go and journal about it and it's over, it's a wrap and I can get through it. It is a process. Often we refer to this as like peeling an onion. You peel the outer layer and you see some movement, you see some momentum, but then there's another layer and there's another layer, and you just keep working through those layers. And as you do that, you are actually becoming the person that you need to be or need to become in order to have the thing that you want to have. The reason that you don't have the thing that you want to have is because that the person that you are currently practiced in being is not a match for the thing that you want the most. It's not to say that it's impossible. It's actually very easy. You just have to practice becoming that person. And I've said in other videos that I used to, back in the day, interpret this as, oh, if I want to be a millionaire, I would have to act like a millionaire. So I can't afford to act like a millionaire. I don't understand how this works. But that is not actually what I was being taught. It's just the way that I was interpreting what I was being taught. What it actually means is, if I right now were someone who was grossing $1 million a year, what time would I be getting up in the morning? Like, what would my schedule be like? What would my health habits be like? And you start to see, as you're acclimating to this new version of yourself, because you're really serious about becoming this person, that you start to change tiny little micro habits that are going to propel you closer to that version of yourself, because the version of yourself that you currently are is not in alignment with your goal. So being who you currently are is only going to get you what you currently have. Especially if you notice that you've pushed yourself, you've made progress, you've reached a ceiling, and no matter what you do, you can't bust through that ceiling. Or if you bust through that ceiling, it doesn't last. You just go right back to the norm. It's because you have not changed anything about who you are being. So you're not going to be able to have the thing that you want because it's not in alignment with who you are currently being. So I think I've beaten that horse a little bit there. So really quick, before I move forward and talk a little bit more about this, I do want to make sure that everybody understands I am having a boot camp on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's 1 hour a day that's going to change your life. In that boot camp, we're going to have exercises that you are going to do when you leave for the night. Do the exercise, post it up, make sure everybody sees that you are doing the work. You are making strides. You are moving towards that newer version of yourself. You want to have something you've never had before. You've got to do the work to become the person who has the thing that you want. We're doing that in this boot camp. So if you haven't signed up, registration is closing soon. I want to make sure there's enough seats that I can be able to interact with everybody effectively. If there's too many people, I don't want to do that. So I'm capping it off at 15 people. Make sure you get your registration in today. All right, having said that, another way that you can find your negative belief systems is when you feel resistance, most notably defensive. This is a really big one. You know, most of you know that I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm also a mindset coach. So I see students in my coaching and I see clients in my hypnotherapy practice. And in both situations, I am challenging my students and my clients to become a higher version of themselves. And the very first thing we start to see is resistance immediately. That's why I have like an entire module dedicated in my program to resistance. And that one of those really, really strong resistance kind of things is defensiveness. If I come to you and I point out to you something that you are currently doing that is not in alignment with the goal that you have, and suggest, because hey, all I'm going to do is suggest, it's up to you. It's your life, it's your goals, it's your action steps that are going to take you there. If I suggest to you an alternate way that you may never have even thought of, and you automatically turn it down or get defensive as if I or someone else in your life is saying something offensive towards you or insulting you in some sort of way, this is a great place to open the window and go, oh, wow, this is an opportunity. I have a negative belief system here. Sit with it, write about it in your journal, and find out what comes up to see what is it that is creating this negative belief. What story am I telling myself? What experiences have I practiced having my whole life that make this story true that doesn't necessarily have to be true? It's just perception. So using that feeling of needing to get defensive is really important. This has happened to me so many times. I've lived such a defensive life because in my eyes, everybody else was so much more successful than I was. And I had this protection mechanism around me that was like, oh, you know, I have to protect myself from everyone else seeing me the way I saw myself. And so I was very defensive. And I remember one time, and I tell this story over and over again, my sister saying, hey, if you want to do better in your business, you need to go network. And my defense was like, no, that is not what we do in our industry, right? Like, you don't know our industry. That's not what we do in our industry. That's your industry, right? And so that defensiveness, though, was blocking me because all I had to do was go and find a way to network in my niche or network in my community in order to become more expansive. But I was so blocked off to that idea that I couldn't move forward. And it was literally a negative belief system blocking me from my own potential. And that's what we're talking about today. So how can you look around your environment for things like what's triggering you? What's creating resistance? Resistance can start with something like defensiveness, but we can also see this with things like feeling overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed is a defense mechanism that we use in order to reduce anxiety. And what that does is it stops us from moving forward. If instead, in the face of overwhelm, we just reduced the enormity of what our perception of the situation is to something very small and something that we can work with and deal with, then we can actually move through the thing that's creating overwhelm or anxiety. For example, sometimes my son will get behind in school. And then I'll say to him, what are your plans for today? Give me 2 things that you can do today that will move your needle forward. And he'll say, well, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And he'll give me like 5 or 6 things. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What you're doing is you're creating so much anxiety and overwhelm for yourself to get all these things on your list done. Just 2 small things that will move the needle forward every day. In 7 days, you will have done 14 things towards your goal in just 1 week. So we can look at the negative belief that overwhelm means stop, or we can look at it differently. This is what I was talking about earlier with the defense, people getting defensive, right? We can look at it differently and say, okay, if I feel overwhelmed or I feel some anxiety, instead of procrastinating or distracting or just giving up altogether, I'm going to take a deep breath, take 5 minutes, create a rule for yourself. That's in my program if you want to know more about it. Join us on the boot camp on this Tuesday, and I will go over more about that. But give yourself 5 minutes, take an opportunity to just relax, stop for a second, and then get right back to it. How can I make this less overwhelming? Is there one little small thing that I can do that pertains to this that will just move the needle a little bit? Stop making it such a big thing. My sister is like such a big mentor in my life. She really has taught me so much because she's always been very successful at the things that she does. And I never really understood that until, until I started applying the principles that I learned from her so many years ago that I never took seriously. But she would say, one of the reasons I think that you're not achieving your goals is because you set them so high that in order to get to them, it's like impossible. You set impossible goals. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should, like my whole program is about setting very high standard goals. The problem is that myself and other people who don't reach those goals don't do so because the goal itself is so far reaching. They don't understand that now that you have created your ultimate goal, it's time to create mini goals in order to reach that. It's another thing that we're going to go over in the boot camp, and we're actually going to do the work on. So make sure you register ASAP. If you don't have the link, make sure you get the link from me. I'm already going over time, so I'm going to stop it there. I hope this live was really, really valuable to you. I do feel that after talking to my students and my clients, this is something that is really affecting them and that I've noticed people are having a lot of problems with. So if you have any questions about it, make sure you leave it in the comments and I will get back to it. Also, drop a hello. Let me know you're here. I love to see that you guys are participating. I really hope you got a lot of value out of this one, and I will see y'all next Friday. Bye. I'm just going to wait like 15 more seconds just in case you guys have any questions. I keep forgetting this is a live Q&A, right? And I'm so used to nobody asking questions that I just come, teach, and leave. And I just want to make sure I leave a couple of minutes here for those of you who do have questions about negative beliefs and how to locate negative beliefs and what do I do with them once I find them and how do I know it's a negative belief that's blocking me? Like, well, maybe you want to bring up your own particular situation to get specific answers to specific questions that will also help other viewers. So I'll just wait probably like another 30 seconds and then I'll jump off.